young American woman, Kayla Mueller.
Kayla Mueller.
American aid worker Kayla Mueller.
Kayla Mueller, the American aid worker captured by ISIS.
Kayla Mueller. You may recognize her name from being in the news in 2015 and 2016 after being captured by ISIS. Popular media outlets hailed her as a devoted humanitarian, American aid worker, or even a great young American. Yet I would submit that this is a disgrace on the part of all who tell her story in this manner. This is because it takes away from the profound legacy that Kayla, a 25-year-old girl, left for those who would listen to her story. If you are listening with children, you may want to pause at this point and listen to the rest of the video privately. Some of the things in Kayla's story may not be appropriate for younger audiences. That being said, I think that everyone can take notes at the selflessness and courage of Kayla Mueller. With that, let's begin. Kayla was born August 14th, 1988, and was raised in Prescott, Arizona, about an hour north of Phoenix. She taught herself multiple languages as well as how to write and play music, and she would frequently involve herself in helping troubled youth, military veterans, and Native Americans who were in need. In 2009, she earned her political science degree from Northern Arizona University and traveled to India, where she worked in an orphanage. In India, Kayla wrote,
I find God in the suffering eyes reflected in mine. If this is how you are revealed to me, this is how I will forever seek you.
Mueller returned home in 2011 to put in over 12-hour shifts in a treatment center and shelter for women affected by HIV and AIDS. After that, she decided to work in part of Francophone Africa, that is, the part of Africa that was previously colonized by the French and thus speaks French. In preparation for working in Africa, she then worked as an au pair in France to better learn the language, but in 2012, she ended up going to Turkey to work with the Syrian refugee crisis. While spending time in Turkey working with refugees, Kayla wanted to go help a hospital in need. She got in the car with an aid worker that was from Syria and began the journey to the hospital, and the hospital was shocked at her arrival. The land that they had passed through had an active civil war going on and was particularly dangerous for international workers. After finishing her work at the hospital, she was brought to a bus station so that she could go back to Turkey. However, the car that she took was ambushed, and Kayla was abducted by ISIS militants. Kayla, a 25-year-old girl, was now a prisoner of the most dangerous and evil men alive. Her guards shaved her head, and she was repeatedly beat, tortured, and abused in every way possible in the dark and dirty cell. Her fellow captives said that she never surrendered to hope, and that she selflessly put the welfare of fellow captives above her own, even when standing before the famous executioner Jihadi John to defend her faith. Julia, age 13, was one of the many Yazidi girls that was held captive with Mueller. Sharing the same mattress and cell, they became close to each other, and Julia thought of Kayla as her big sister. Julia also described painfully tight chains that they were forced to wear, but worst of all, how Kayla had been chosen by Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS, to be violated several times a night for himself, after having her fingernails ripped from her hands. Julia said when she was with us, she wanted to encourage us because of what also happened with us. Julia told Kayla that she wanted to escape, and told Kayla that she would go with them. Kayla replied that she couldn't because she was an American, and if she had escaped, they would do everything to capture Kayla again. Julia also said that, quote, she was very good to us. She gave us a piece of her clothes to cover our face and told us that if ISIS comes, you should cover your face with a burqa. You should cover your face from them. For 18 months, Kayla survived and endured the brutal conditions of being enslaved to ISIS. Kayla repeatedly tried to shield girls from the terrorists' abuse and violence, putting their lives above hers. Julia believes that Kayla sacrificed herself so that the escape of fellow captives like herself would not be jeopardized. Kayla died February 6, 2015, at the age of 26, at the brutal and wicked hands of ISIS. Mueller's family received 3 photographs of her body, which had been brutally bruised and crushed. While initial reports indicated that she died in an airstrike, it appears that this was something that had been fabricated by ISIS leadership, and she was more likely killed by repeated blunt force trauma. Kayla, at the age of 26, was driven by her worldview to put herself in harm's way, to bear witness of Christ in the dark places of the world. Grounded by a biblical worldview, she traveled to Syria knowing the risks and dangers that would await her. This worldview included a promise of suffering, a call to action, and an eternal hope. The Apostle Paul promises suffering in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 12, saying that, "Indeed, all who desire to live a godly life in Christ Jesus shall be persecuted." Kayla clearly understood this, and we get this from a letter that was sent to her parents while she was in captivity, and it read,
If you could say I have suffered at all throughout this whole experience, it is only in knowing how much suffering I have put you all through. I will never ask you to forgive me, as I do not deserve forgiveness. I remember Mom always telling me that all in all, in the end, the only one you really have is God. I have come to a place in experience where, in every sense of the word, I have surrendered myself to our Creator because literally there was no one else. By God, by your prayers, I have felt tenderly cradled in free fall. I have been shown in darkness light. I have learned that even in prison, one can be free. I am grateful. I have come to see that there is good in every situation. Sometimes we just have to look for it.
Welcome to session 8. We're going to be picking up where we were in session 7. We had looked at briefly kind of Muhammad's wife. His first wife is Khadija, who he marries when he's 25. She's 40 years old. And during this period of Muhammad's life, we see a lot of really sweet sayings come out during this time. When Khadija dies, there is a big change in the way he talks and what he says. So what you'll find behind me are the notes. In this series, we have about 110 pages of notes. Overarching everything in Islam, Islam equals Muhammad and the revelations of Muhammad. Muhammad is the perfect example, according to Muslims, on how you should live your life. We just watched a video about Kayla Mueller. ISIS, the leader of ISIS, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, took her as a sex slave. So where did he get this idea from? What does Islam's most trusted sources say? What does the Quran say when we start to think about the video that we just saw? So as we do that, what I want you to do is kind of forget maybe everything you've known about Islam, and let's go in and dig in together to see what these trusted sources are. Rules on prepubescent marriage. This is from Quran 65:4. Allah the Mighty said, "And those of your women as have passed the age of monthly courses," those would be your postmenopausal, "for those who have a menses or a period, and those who have none," meaning they're immature. Their period is, before you can marry them, is 3 months. So enshrined in the Quran is this idea that you can marry prepubescent girls. We're going to be looking and seeing like, well, what do these websites like Islam.web? What does CARE? What does some of these other organizations say about the treatment of women? We looked at the current conflict of what's happening in the Middle East, this idea that Muhammad got on this mythical steed and went from where he was all the way to Jerusalem, where they get, by the way, this idea of the 5 daily prayers, one of the pillars, the foundation of Islam, Salah. We see that his wife said that he must have had to have done that in spirit only, that he didn't actually go. His wife, Aisha, said the body of the messenger of Allah, Muhammad, was not missing. He was only taken by spirit. In another place it says, Aisha, the prophet's wife, used to say, the apostle's body remained where it was, but God removed his spirit by night. If you think about this tension in Jerusalem, what happened if Muhammad had veracity, had truthfulness about this? Or what other influence was happening to Muhammad to make him think this? Either one of those conclusions leads you to an idea he is not a true prophet of a God of truth. When he goes on this, we get the verses regarding the majority of women are in the fire. The majority of those people were women. This is from Sahih al-Bukhari. It's also mentioned in Sahih Muslim. I looked into paradise and saw the majority of its dwellers were the poor, which is beautiful. And you'll see again, like I mentioned, you'll see this on kind of their t-shirts and their mugs. But they leave out the second part. And I looked into the fire and saw the majority of its inhabitants were women. So hell is full of women. We're going to get a better idea of kind of his idea of women. He used to kind of boast about his sexual ability, his sexual prowess. The prophet, peace be upon him, used to visit all his wives in one night. He had 9 wives at that time. Muhammad had the strength of 30 men. This is from Bukhari. We see it in Muslim. We see it in another hadith. And we talked about where did he get this power? And we talked about the hadith, the Hassan, the sound hadith of the Al-Zut who rode him. And remember back then, there was this idea that if you had relations in a pederastic relationship, you could take the power or virility from that person. We looked at the psychology behind someone who basically was constantly abandoned, constantly went through change. And a lot of them have this idea that their life, they would incorporate magic. We looked at some of the psychology of that. His wife again said, magic was worked on Muhammad so that he used to think he had sexual relations with his wives when he actually hadn't. So we see his closest companions and confidants deny the fact that he went to Jerusalem, deny the fact that he's not trustworthy, even in these kind of virility statements. Then we looked at the foundation that ISIS used to take someone like Kayla Mueller. This is in the Quran. And if ye fear that ye do not deal fairly by orphans, marry of the woman who seem good to you 2, 3, or 4. So you're allowed 4 wives in Islam, plus, and if you fear you cannot do justice to so many, then 1 only, or the captives your right hands possess. This is not a hadith. This is in the Quran. So Islam allows 4 sex slaves in addition to 4 wives. So is it any wonder when you look at ISIS and they take the Yazidi girls, what is the true teaching of Muhammad? I'm not even going to say the true Islam. But what does Islam's most trusted sources say on these events? We can open them up and point to surah and ayah, or chapter and verse, and see why they're doing what they're doing. We looked at a list of their wives, and so we're going to look again and pick up this wife that Muhammad had. Khadijah died 3 years before the Prophet departed to Medina. He stayed in Mecca for 2 years or thereabout, and he married Aisha, who was a girl of 6 years of age, and consummated that marriage when she was 9 years old. we looked at some of these countries that have banned any minimum age on marriage. And what do we find? We find they're Islamic countries who point to the perfect example, Muhammad, as their reasoning of why they will not ban marriage for minors. The largest trafficking of underage girls in the world, not even close, is in Islam. Again, we turn to this 6-year-old who was taken advantage of when she was 9. She was playing with her dolls. How did Muhammad talk to her? What was his excitement toward her? Muhammad used to say to me, this is Aisha talking, "You were shown to me twice in my dream before I married you. I saw an angel carrying you in a silken piece of cloth. And I said to the angel, 'Uncover her,' and behold, it was you. I said to myself, 'If this is from Allah, then it must happen.'" When you look today at the same kind of things, when you see these child brides being taken advantage of in the FLDS, and you see these Warren Jeffs, and there's other ones, what you see with this is they target young girls and they say, "God told me to do this." So here you have a 9-year-old girl, again, married at 6, and saying, "I saw you in this silken cloth." We read, Muhammad sent a military expedition. They met their enemy and fought with them. They defeated them and took them captives. Some of these warriors, the companions of Muhammad, were reluctant to have intercourse with the female captives in front of their husbands, who were unbelievers. This is what Muhammad said God said was good. So Allah the Exalted sent down the Quranic verse, all married women are forbidden unto you, and you will even see them say that. Oh, of course, married women are forbidden. And they conveniently leave off the part of the Quranic ayah, the Quranic verse, "Save those captives whom your right hand is to possess." That is to say, they are lawful for them when they complete their waiting period. That 3-month period to make sure that they are not pregnant. We looked at Muhammad's first cousin, Zainab. He had a slave in this house with his first wife, who then he takes in and adopts. He gives his beautiful first cousin to marriage. He sees her, what's called in a shift or a night dress, and makes this exclamation, basically kind of like, "Oh my God." And his heart then is turned toward her. And so his slave gives up his wife for Muhammad, thereby banning all adoption in any Sharia compliant law. It's been banned in country after country. We see that this practice then leads to consanguineous marriage. We looked at the example of Pakistan. About 70% of marriages are between first or second cousin. 80% of that 70% of marriages are between first cousins. That has led to the entire denigration of the intelligence of a nation. So let's look at his morality. Let's continue down this path. That was just a short summary of where we are today. And let's look at some of these other women. In the year 6 Antihijra, that means it means after the migration, Muhammad attacked this tribe. This is a Jewish tribe, while they were unaware. So imagine yourself, you're out cutting dates, you're unaware. Muhammad brings his military to a watering place. He kills their warriors, overtakes them, takes their women and children captives. Among the captives is this lady, and we're going to call her Juraira. Her husband, Mustafa, is murdered in this thing. And again, we see this from the oldest biographical source that records on Islam. This is from both recorded in Ibn Ishaq and Al-Tabari. Let's look at what Muhammad's 9-year-old, 6-year-old bride, consummated at 9-year-old. Aisha reports, when Muhammad divided the captives, this woman whose husband was surprise attacked on, that was murdered, she fell to the share of this man we'll just call K's. She was a very beautiful woman. Okay, so Aisha's in this harem of Muhammad, and she sees this beautiful woman, most attractive to the eye. She came to the messenger, to Muhammad, seeking help in the purchase of her freedom. As she stood in the door of the mosque, Aisha, looked at her with disapproval, realizing that Muhammad would see her as I saw her. So what was Muhammad attracted to? Fleshly beauty. Aisha knows this man that I'm married to, if there's a beautiful woman, that's what he's going to want. She said, Muhammad, this is this lady, I am Juraira, daughter of this person, chief of his people. You are aware of my plight. I have fallen to K's, and I have made agreement to purchase my freedom, so please help me. Muhammad said, would you like something better than that, than your freedom? This is Muhammad's idea of what's been better than freedom. Bear in mind, her husband whom she loved, this beautiful young girl, has been slaughtered in a surprise attack. I will, this is Muhammad, discharge your debt and marry you. She said, Muhammad, then I will do it. The news spread that Muhammad had married this girl, and the people said, the captives are now the relatives of Muhammad. So they set free the captives of this tribe. 100 households were free because of her marriage. If you think about the story of Kayla Mueller, it's reported by the other sex slaves that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi had. She said that I'm an American. If I escape, they will do everything to find you. So she chose, like this girl, to give herself, her body up to this disgusting man in order to save other people. This is Muhammad's morality. Let's look at the story of another one of his wife, Safiya. Muhammad has come along with his army. This is from the authentic Hadith Sahih al-Muslim. Muhammad has come along with his army. We conquered Khaybar, took captives, and the booty was collected. Dia, this is beautiful Dia again, came and said, Muhammad, give me a slave girl from the captives. And the prophet said, go and take any slave girl. And he took this Safiya. Allah, the majestic, and again, this is the majestic and the glorious, defeated them, and there fell, and this is another, the first one, I'm sorry, it was from Bukhari, this is from Muslim, defeated them, and there fell to the lot of Dia, a beautiful girl. And Allah's messenger got her in exchange for 7 head. Then entrusted her to this person so she might embellish her, get her made pretty, wipe her tears away, and prepare her for marriage with him. So Muhammad goes into war. The most beautiful girl gets taken, but he doesn't give that to his soldier. He trades 7 heads for this girl. So apparently, I don't know whether these are men or women, it doesn't say, in order for him to have this sex slave wife. Let's read what Ibn Ishaq says. This is Safiya's husband. Kinana, who had custody of the treasure of this tribe, was brought to Muhammad, who asked him about it. So they take these people captive. They are interviewing this beautiful girl's husband. He's a young man. And Muhammad wants to know where the treasure is. A Jew from the same tribe came to Muhammad and said that he had seen Kinana going around a certain ruin early in the morning. Then the apostle Muhammad says to him, do you know that if we find you have it, I shall kill you? So what he's trying to do is steal the treasure of this tribe. And this young man refuses to give it up. He said, yes. Muhammad gave orders that the ruin was to be excavated and some of the treasure was found. When he asked him about the rest, he refused to produce it. So Muhammad gave orders, torture him until you extract what he has. So they kindle a fire with flint and steel on his chest until he's almost dead. Then Muhammad delivered him to another Muhammad, and they beheaded him and they struck off his head. So now you're this young, beautiful girl, Safiya. Your tribe is taken over. Your husband is trying to protect his tribe. They start a fire, and if you remember, ISIS captured some fighter pilots and they burnt them alive. Where did they get the impetus, the reason to do this? Straight from Islam's most trusted sources. So Muhammad then takes Safiya as a wife in trading for these 7 heads. When Muhammad had consummated the marriage with Safiya on his way back to Medina. So again, put yourself in this young lady's shoes. Your husband burnt alive for trying to do the right thing, attacked by a warlord, and then beheaded. Ayub, this is somebody who loved Muhammad, guarded Muhammad during the night that he is taking advantage of this woman. I have to be careful which words I use because this is on the internet. Walking around the tent with his sword drawn. When the apostle saw him in the morning, he says, "What is this, Ayub?" He replied, "I was afraid for you with this woman, because what he was doing to this woman in the tent. For you have killed her father, her husband, and her people, and she is lately an unbeliever, so I guarded you." What is Muhammad's response to what he is doing to her after the torture and all of these things? The apostle laughs. Muhammad laughs. This is the morality. Thanked him for his concern. Now imagine in today's things when you see the media and they're talking about Me Too and all of these. How many of these stories from the most trusted sources are being taught? How dare Christians stand hand in hand and say, the man who proclaimed this God follows the same God that was Jesus Christ and the same teachings of Jesus Christ. Let's continue looking at his morality. How do you treat a wife who you're having a problem with? This is in the Quran, 4:34. Men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. So righteous women are devotedly obedient, guarding in their husband's absence what God would have them, and I'm using theirs. I don't even like to use the word God. What Allah would have them guard, but those wives whom you fear arrogance. This isn't, unchastity. This is just, they're getting a little too haughty, too good. First advise them if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally strike them. But if they obey you once more, seek no means against them. Indeed, Allah is ever exalted and grand. As for those whom you fear rebellion, admonish them, banish them in beds apart, scourge them. This is a different translation. It doesn't say beat, it says scourge them. Then if they obey you, seek not a way against them. Those are two different translations. In the Shakir version, it says beat them, then hit them in the Halim version. 4 different versions tells you how to handle, according to Islam's most trusted source, the Quran, with a wife, again, who's what? You might fear arrogance. Let's go to Bukhari. And let's hear from Aisha. Aisha said that the lady came wearing a green veil and complained to her. They complained to Aisha of her husband and showed her a green spot on her skin because of the beating. It was the habit of the ladies to sport each other. So when Muhammad came, Aisha said, I have not seen any woman suffering as much as the believing women. Look, her skin is greener than her clothes. So which, in this pagan culture, which of the women is Muhammad's wife saying suffer the most? Is it the pagans? The ones who worship the exalted cranes? No. It's the ones who follow the perfect example of Muhammad. Those are the ones who suffer. As we continue, what happened to Aisha? Narrated Aisha. This is from Sahih al-Muslim. When I was with him, he struck me on the chest, which caused me pain. Do you think that Allah and his apostle would deal unjustly with you? That's what he said. Violence toward women. Ibn Majah. This is 1986. So there's a feast. So when you have this worldview and you're the perfect example, what are his people around him doing? One night, Umar arranged a feast. When it was midnight, he got up and went toward his wife to beat her. I separated them both. When he went to bed, he said to me, preserve from me a thing that I heard from Allah's messenger. A man will not be taken to task for beating his wife. So this man who's trying to protect this woman is saying, what are you doing? From Muhammad's self, a man will not be taken to task. Let's now compare that and contrast that to a biblical morality. When you follow the ethics, the morality of Jesus Christ, we have Paul writing to the Ephesian church, husbands, love your wives. How much? As Christ loved the church and gave himself for her. These couldn't be on farther ends of the scale. Yes, I'm going to take my wife, murder her husband, set a fire on him, take a child, you name it, versus Jesus, who gave everything. Literally gave everything. He said, that's the example. Paul is admonishing the Ephesian church to do this. We see that both men and women in Genesis 1:27 are said to be made in God's image, thereby having equal value. We see in the Old Testament, in the Jewish writings, the wisdom of Solomon, strength and dignity are in her clothing. She laughs at a time to come. This is from the chapter that often people describe. This wife, this hardworking wife, her children have no need because she is so industrious. She makes so much extra money for the family. Going back to Ephesians, a few verses later, however, let each one of you love his wife as himself. Is that then the continuity that you see coming from this ethos of the Bible that then lands on Muhammad? Do you see him as a succession of prophets? I don't think so. Now, often people ask, where does this idea of the 72 virgins come in Islam? This idea, what does heaven look like? We learn that the people of the fire, the majority of them are women. So let's now turn that mirror and let's look at what does heaven look like, paradise. And these paradise women, we're going to call them Ori woman is one pronunciation of it. The first batch of people who enter paradise, and every one of them shall have 2 wives, each of whom will be so beautiful, pure, and transparent that the marrow of bones of their legs will be seen through their flesh. Now, apparently that's attractive. I guess they can see skeletons. They will be glorifying Allah in the morning and evening, will never fall ill. They will neither blow their noses nor spit. That is, according to Muhammad, according to the most trusted sources, that is wow. They don't blow their nose nor spit. Their utensils will be of gold and silver. Their combs will be of gold. And the fuel used in their centers will be aloes wood. They smell good. Their sweat would smell like musk. Even their sweat is going to smell good. So these Ori wives of paradise, it goes on to describe them in the Quran. Indeed, the righteous will have salvation, private gardens, vineyard, young, full-bosomed woman of equal age, an overflowing cup, never to hear any idle talk. So they're over there, they're ready for whenever Muhammad is ready. 4 different times in the Quran, 44, 52, 55, 56. Indeed, the righteous will be in a secure place within gardens and springs, wearing fine silk brocade, facing each other, and will marry them fair women with large, beautiful eyes. These are not human wives. These are Ori wives specially designed for heaven. So is it any wonder why the majority are in hell? We read in 55, they are reclining on beds whose linings of silk brocade, the fruit of the 2 gardens is hanging low. So which of the flavors of your Lord would you deny? In them are women limiting their glances, untouched before, this is this idea of virgins, by man or jinn, and we see these genies. 56, we have created the maidens of special creation. Again, these are not the human creation, nor are they the jinn creation. This is what the Islamic male looks forward to. Not his current wife, but these special women. Loving their husbands, equal in age, for those on the right hand. If you think I'm making this up, go to sunnah.com. We'll be looking at this hadith is graded Hasan, which means this is a good hadith. Daif grade means it's weak. Muhammad said, there are 6 things with Allah for the martyr. So they get 6 things. He is forgiven with the first blow of blood he has suffered. So all of the unrighteousness that a martyr has had in his life, and people wonder, on the September 11th attackers, why did they go visit nightclubs? All of the things that were forbidden. Because the moment a martyr dies, all of that is forgiven. It doesn't matter how they live prior to that. The first flow of blood. He is shown his place in paradise. He's protected from punishment in the grave, secured from the greatest terror. The crown of dignity is placed on his head. Its gems are better than the world and what it has in it. He is promised money and sex, and essentially power. He is married to 72 wives along al-Hayurin. These are these Oris of paradise. And he may intercede, so he can bring in 70 of his close relatives. You wonder why some of these low IQ, consanguineous marriage people, it's so easy to recruit them into doing this. They don't want them thinking. They promise them this immorality, this vice over virtue. And this is a Hasan hadith. Sunan Ibn Majah, Book of Marriage. No woman causes harm to her husband, except that his wife from among the Oris say. So now, this is a little confusing, but I want you to understand this. This is Muhammad telling his earthly wives what the Ori women would tell them. These wives in paradise are telling these earthly women, do not harm him, the husband. May Allah ruin you. He is only a guest with you. He will soon leave you and come to us. So imagine now you're an Islamic wife, knowing that the husband you serve, you're only a guest with him. He is looking forward to these Ori women of heaven. Now let's look at what modern Islamic propaganda says. That's what I just gave you was Islam's most trusted sources. This is not me, this is me quoting from them. Let's read from Islam Web Online. This is literally inspired by the Prophet's character, I would say morality. The Prophet and the status of women. IslamOnline.net, Fatwa 124869, I think. I need my readers. It's in the notes if you're online. The story of the Prophet interacting with women, including his wives, daughters, and female companions, this just warms my heart, reflects on his commitment to upholding their dignity, admiring the status of women, protecting their rights, from appointing a specific day for women to freely engage with him, to intervening in situations where women were mistreated or unfairly judged. The Prophet demonstrated his unwavering support for gender equity. So what do we see must be one of the bedrocks in Islam? We just read original source material. Modern Muslims say this, Defender of women, well, that leads me right into deception in Islam. A lot of people oversimplify deception in Islam. You'll hear a term called taqiyya, and it is essentially lying for Islam. We're going to pull out a couple of those terms. Don't worry, they're a little bit confusing. But no, there are several different types of intentional deceit that are encouraged in Islam. And they're almost always online, all kind of put into this category of taqiyya, which is a little bit incorrect, but that's okay, but you'll get the idea. Tariya, to use an expression that has two meanings. One is apparent, this is a type of deception, that the listener understands, so they're going to tell the listener something, they're going to hear something, and one hidden that the speaker intends. So I put a little example on there. You might hear back, if you wish a Muslim Merry Christmas, they're not going to celebrate Christmas, best wishes. Now what they're not doing is wishing you a Merry Christmas, but they are using tariya and just saying, best wishes. So the intent of best wishes is they're saying, by saying that to you, I hope you convert to Islam. So if you talk to a Muslim and you're like, hey, God bless you this week, a lot of them don't really have a problem with that. But if they hear you back, best wishes, well, what they're saying is, I wish the best for you, and I wish you convert to Islam. Maruna is pragmatic adaptability to achieve religious or ideological aims. So it's strategic flexibility that involves an outwardly adjusting behavior or alliances to serve a long-term goal. So you hide your true beliefs in order to suit Islam. So some of them are like, they'll make a political alliance that kind of makes no sense, and they're hiding the true intention of that in order to move forward an agenda. When that agenda wears off, well then, and they have power, then they're going to do that on top of it. Kitman is concealment for safety or strategy, often in belief or intent. It involves withholding the truth. So here's an example, only given a partial truth about Muhammad, while hiding facts that would cause concern. So one way to do this is use an abrogated text, something that Muhammad said that later he totally said, no, we're going to go some other way. That would be kind of kitman. Another way that you see this used kind of is taking a verse kind of out of context. And so I was at a library with my son. There were some Muslims there. They're actually from the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association. So the largest group of Muslims, Shia and Sunni, would reject them because they had a prophet after Muhammad. But let's look at, as you open this thing, the Holy Quran is against terrorism. It's totally against it, the big X. And it's so against it that look at this Quranic verse that's right in the middle. And I'm going to then, on the next slide, get it. This is 533. Or excuse me, actually, I think it is 532. That might be a misprint. We ordained for the children of Israel that if anyone slew a person, it would be as if he slew the whole people. If anyone saved a life, it would be as if he saved the life of a whole people. That is a beautiful saying. We ordained for the Jews that if anyone slew a person, it would be as if he slew all of them. If anyone saved a life, it's as if he saved all of them. Except, there's 3 little dots in there. Dot, dot, dot. I wonder what they took out in that verse. I don't know. Let's look. So, let's open it up a little bit more. On that account, we ordained for the children of Israel that if anyone slew a person, unless it be for murder or for spreading mischief in the land. What is mischief? Whatever they want it to be. I guarantee you, if I was in Yemen, I would be spreading, according to them, mischief by reading their original sources, because I'm not hiding it. I'm not hiding what Muhammad actually said in order to advance Islam. Now when you read it in context, it isn't so warm and fuzzy. It's okay to slew someone, to murder someone, to kill someone if they're creating mischief. Well, why don't we just take that a little bit more to 33 and 34? Then although there came to them our messengers with clear signs, yet after that many of them continue to commit excesses in the land. So we have mischief and excesses. This is that same ayah, the same verse in context. The punishment of those who waged war against Allah and Muhammad and strive with might and main for mischief throughout the land is execution, crucifixion, the cutting off of hands and feet from the opposite sides, or exile from the land. That in their disgrace in this world and heavy punishment is theirs in the hereafter. Now let's go back to that. What does that sound like for people who spread mischief? You're going to create terror in them. You're going to cut off hands. You're going to crucify them. Does that sound like the Holy Quran is for or against terrorism? From the Quran. What do we see this then? This is intentional lying, kitman, in order to advance Islam. And yet, so many people are so intellectually lazy that they see this. And so what are the two things I say that are the most powerful things to convert Muslims? To get them to look at their original sources and to get them to look at the Bible. To look at the words and teachings of Jesus Christ. They are fooling so many people. Let's look at, if you go to LDS.org, Mormons have been so fooled by this. This is today on their website, Love for God and Humanity. This is what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has to say about Muslims. Now, bear in mind, we just read this verse in context. Muslims and Latter-day Saints believe that by loving God and all humankind, especially young girls, peace and goodness will ultimately prevail. They devote their lives to living and teaching these principles. Now, part of what they say is true. Thankfully, a lot of Muslims do devote their lives to good principles. My challenge today is not really to Muslims, it's against Muhammad and his perfect example. To his teachings that have permeated so much. Muslims, the Quran teaches Muslims. Now look at this. What is this verse? Whoever saves a life, it will be as if they saved all humanity. Now you would think an organization that's worth billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars, that requires you to give 10% in order to get into the temple, so you then can someday populate your own planet, become like Elohim, and live as God and create lots of spirit babies, that their PR people would go and look up this verse in context. But even they were fooled by the deception of Kitman, by intentional deception. We have mudarat, it's contention, it's concealment of intention for people you dislike and to be diplomatic. There's so many examples of this. Now, let's look at some of these things that are just modern. On the upper, we see Abu Muhammad al-Golani. He is the leader of al-Nusra, which is a terrorist organization. He's a jihadi leader. You see the stylized jihadi, or the shahada behind him. Really, the upper picture looks like a picture of a cartoon character of Islamic terrorism looks like. But when he wants to conceal it, now as the president of Syria, he changes his name to Ahmed al-Shara. And it's the very same man. And now we're supposed to be negotiating with this. Without understanding the deception in Islam, what chance do leaders have unless they are going to take a few minutes and look at the life and teaching of Muhammad? We come to taqiyya. This is a deliberate concealment of faith, if you want the technical definition of it, or pretending conformity in order to advance Islam. This can involve intentionally deceiving about what Islam teaches in order to gain a foothold. This is from Quran 16:106. Whoever disbelieves in Allah after his belief, except one who is forced to renounce his religion while his heart is secure in faith. But those who willingly open their breast to disbelief, upon them is the wrath from Allah, and for them is a great punishment. So what this says is, within the Quran, it says, no, don't be like Daniel and stand at a window and refuse to bow down like Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah to a false idol. He's going to face toward Jerusalem. He's going to show, I'm a Jew. This says, no, just hide your faith. Lie about it. His heart is secure, but he can renounce it. Do you see the difference? 3:26. Let not the believers take for friends or helpers unbelievers rather than believers. If any do that, in nothing will there be help from Allah. So if you take friends, true friends, you will not have help from Allah, except by way of precaution, that ye may guard yourselves from them. So what can you do? You can, as a precaution, pretend to be friends. But Allah is cautious. You remember himself. The final goal is Allah. Ibn Kathir, giving. Now this was Quran 3:28. So if we look at the commentaries, Ibn Kathir is a very prominent commentary on this verse. Allah said next, unless you indeed fear and danger from them, meaning, again, we're going back to by way of precaution that you may guard yourselves. What does that actually mean in the commentaries? It means, indeed, fear a danger from them, meaning, except those believers who in some areas or times fear for their safety from disbelievers. In this case, such believers are allowed to show friendship to the disbelievers outwardly, but never inwardly. For instance, Al-Bukhari recorded that Abu al-Darda said, we smile in the face of some people, although our hearts curse them. Al-Bukhari said that Al-Hasan said, the taqiyya is allowed until the day of resurrection. So when you see Islam and it's so confusing to you, and they're like, yes, they're not, queers for Palestine, all of this stuff, and they seem in alignment with Marxism and all of these ideologies, understand that the taqiyya is okay until the day of resurrection. Where else do they get this from? This is from the Quran 3:54. We talked about this idea that the Islamic deity Allah is the best of schemers. And they, the disbelievers, schemed, and Allah schemed against them. Allah is the best of schemers. This word in Arabic, makr, literally means to deceive. Jesus says ultimate reality is truth, love. What do you have? You have deceit. 10:21, no sooner we let people taste of some mercy after some hardship has affected them, than they begin to scheme against our revelations. Say, God schemes even faster, or Allah schemes faster. The prophet said, this is in Bukhari, war is deceit. When you want to take over the world, you're allowed to lie. This is from the most authentic Hadith collection to Muslims worldwide, Sahih al-Bukhari. War is deceit. The context of this is thought to be the murder of Zaram and his 30 unarmed men by Muhammad's men after he guaranteed them safe passage. This is the morality of Muhammad. These men say, hey, can we pass through? It's like, yeah, of course. And then he slaughters all 30 of them. To which Muhammad says, well, war is deceit. He laughs after taking a wife whose husband wants to protect the tribe. That is his morality. He who makes peace between the peoples by inventing good information, this is lying, or saying good things, is not a liar. The most trusted Sahih al-Bukhari. Lying is permitted. One who exposes something from our religion is like one who intentionally kills us. Why is that? Maybe because it's so depraved. You belong to a religion that whoever conceals it, Allah will honor him, and whoever reveals it, Allah will disgrace to him. And basically this was saying, hey, this is your new tribe. Your family no longer matters. What matters is the tribe of Islam. If you go and tell a war plan to your family, to protect your family, well, you know what? This is your new family. That's basically what it is. So let's look at the opposite. What is in direct opposition to that? And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Jesus in John 8:32. Does this sound like Muhammad was a successive prophet to Isa, to Jesus? Again, we go to Jewish writings and Proverbs. Truthful lips endure, a lying tongue is but for a moment. Zechariah, speak the truth to one another, render in your gates judgments that are true and make for peace. Turning back to Ephesians, speak the truth in love. We are to grow up in every way into Him who is the head, into Christ. Why do we tell the truth? Because Jesus told us to tell the truth and to do it with love. Now, what about deception? You destroy those who speak lies, for the Lord abhors bloodthirsty and deceitful men. When is the last time you heard one of these people these Christian preachers who say, oh, Islam just means peace, not looking at what their original sources say? What would David have to say about this type of teaching about lying? We are, even in Corinthians, to go after arguments, every argument that stands up against the knowledge of God. Therefore, having put away convenient falsehoods or every falsehood, put away every falsehood. Let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor. For we are members one of another. And so I start to wonder if the Bible didn't talk about this. You are of the father, the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and has nothing to do with the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks lies, he speaks of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. That sounds to me just like Allah is the best of deceivers. And Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives. The disciples came to him privately. Tell us, they said, when will this happen? When will the sign of your coming and the end of the age? Jesus answered, watch out that no one deceives you. He is not surprised that there are people who teach deception as being from God instead of being from the father of lies, Satan himself. Let's look quickly at the 3 stages of violence. Stage 1, this is from Quran 109. When Muslims are outnumbered, say, O ye unbelievers, I do not serve that which you serve, nor do you serve him who I serve. Nor am I going to serve that which you serve, nor are you going to serve him who I'm serving. So they're saying, hey, when you're outnumbered, just say, hey, you have your religion, I have my religion, I have my religion, you have your religion. You shall have your religion, and I shall have my religion. And you'll see this quoted. Oh, Islam doesn't want to go against what you have? Look, right here in the Quran. It says you can have your religion. Well, what happens when they're strong enough to fight defensively? This is from Quran 22, 39 through 40. Permission to fight is given to those upon whom war is made because they are oppressed. And most surely Allah is well able to assist them, those who have been expelled from their homes without a just cause, except that they say, our Lord is Allah. Let's jump then to the 3rd stage. When Muslims are in the majority, look what it says, fight those who do not believe in Allah nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden which he hath been forbidden by Allah and his messenger and Muhammad. So what matters if you pay attention to Muhammad, nor acknowledge the religion of truth, that's an oxymoron, from among the people of the book until they pay the jizya or willing submission and feel themselves subdued. So what they're saying is, you can subdue them, but then they have to pay a tax and live in submission. And if you go online and you see how they want Christians and Jews to pay this, they don't even want them to be able to. Some of these countries exact a tax from non-Muslims. But it doesn't require them submitting because they do it online. And right now they're calling for bans to do this. They should have to do this in person. They should have to be forced to submit to pay this tax. The honorable ayah was revealed with the order to fight the people of the book. It'd be Christians. After the pagans were defeated, the people entered Allah's region in large numbers, and the Arabian Peninsula was secured under the Muslims' control. Allah commanded his messenger to fight the people of the scriptures, Jews and Christians, on the 9th year of Hijrah, and he prepared his army to fight the Romans and called the people to jihad, announcing his intent and destination. So much around this word brings confusion. And so, jihad really just means kind of like my struggle. The struggle would be the actual translation of that. In German, actually, uniquely enough, Mein Kampf means my struggle. It also could mean jihad. When you look at this, they'll say, oh, the majority of what they talk about with jihad is an internal struggle. Now, there is a part to that. But when you look at this from the commentators, Ibn Kathir, jihad is all about expanding Islam via force from the most trusted sources. Understand that. So then we can go further. Therefore, all peoples of the world should be called to Islam. How many? All of them. If any one of them refuses to do so or refuses to pay the jizya, they should be fought till they are killed. Ibn Kathir. I have been ordered, this is Bukhari, to fight the people till they say the Shahada. So what are they ordered? They're ordered to fight. I have been commanded to fight against the people. Sahih al-Muslim. Let not the believers take disbeliever for their friends. 328. Be not weary and faint-hearted, crying for peace when you should be uppermost. So that means don't try for peace when you have the advantage. When you don't have the advantage, oh yeah, let's say peace. But here within the Quran, do not cry for peace when you have the upper hand. Can Muslims ask for peace? If the disbelievers are considered more powerful and numerous than the Muslims. Then the imam may decide to hold a treaty if he judges that entails a benefit for the Muslims. Ibn Kathir. A man came to Allah's messenger and said, guide me into such a deed as equals jihad. Muhammad replied, I don't find such a deed. Narrated, Anas bin Malik, the prophet said, nobody who dies and finds good from Allah in the hereafter would wish to come back to this world. So what is waiting for the men? Ori wives, all of those descriptions, except, now what's interesting about this, even if he were given the whole world and what's ever in it, except the martyr on whom seeing the superiority of martyrdom would like to come back and get killed again. So how high is martyrdom? And where is this found? Sahih al-Bukhari. Violence toward unbelievers. The prophet said, by him in whose hands my soul is, I would love to be martyred in Allah's cause, and then to come back to life, and then get martyred, and then to come back to life again, and then get martyred, and then come back to life again, and then get martyred. Bukhari 2797. Bukhari 6922. Anyone who leaves Islam is going to be killed. Muhammad orders apostates to be killed in 6923, 6930. Muslims who kill apostates have a reward on the day of resurrection. For time, I'm shrinking down. There are so many things we could say about this. When you look at the cruelty, the insane cruelty. So here's a blind man, had a slave mother. So he's blind, and this mother used to abuse the prophet. Now, lots of slaves in the history of slavery have, now when it says abuse, used to basically mock him. He rebuked her, but she did not give up her habit. One night she began to slander the prophet and abuse him, so he took a dagger, placed it on her belly, pressed it, and killed her. A child who came between her legs was smeared with the blood that was there. And the morning came, the prophet was informed upon it. Therefore the prophet said, O be witness, no retaliation is payable for her blood. A Jewess used to abuse, mock the prophet, and disparage him. A man strangled her till he died. The apostle Muhammad declared that no recompense was payable for her blood. If you wonder why Muslims will attack a cartoonist in France for mocking the prophet, why in Garland, Texas, when they have a cartoon, and I'm not recommending those kind of behaviors, I think there's better ways to do it. But we do have the First Amendment. What happens? 2 gunmen come. Those gunmen were killed. Why? Because they're following what is their perfect example. You mock the prophet, you're to be killed. Abu Afak is a very old man. In this story, the sources say he's over 100. He composed some verses of poetry chiding Muhammad. The apostle said, "Who will deal with this rascal for me?" So, whereupon Salim, one of the weepers, went forth and killed him. 100-year-old man. Muhammad's skin was so thin. You see over and over again in the Quran. I'm not making this up. He's constantly being accused of being a liar and a forger for propagating this. When Abu Afak had been killed, okay, so this old man, just to get you back to the story, has been killed. Asma displayed disaffection. We're going to hear about this, who this is. Blaming Islam and its followers, she said, this is Asma, I despise, this is the person who killed the 100-year-old man. You obey a stranger who is no one of yours. Did you expect good from him after killing one of your chiefs? This is the idea of the tightness of Islam. That now when you're part of this tribe, you kill those who disparage. So this Asma is so upset because the person who did this was actually a Muslim. He was so quickly twisted that he killed a 100-year-old man mocking the prophet from his own tribe. Now, what happens with Asma? When the apostle heard what Asma said, he said, who will rid me of Marwan's daughter? This person who was with him heard him, and that very night he went to her house and killed her. In the morning he came to the apostle and told him what he had done. And Muhammad, I forgot the D, said, you have helped God and his apostle. When he asked if he would have to bear any evil consequences, the apostle said, 2 goats won't butt their heads about her. So what happens? An old man mocks. A member of the tribe goes, how could you do that to one of your chiefs? Muhammad's like, go kill her. 2 goats won't butt their heads about her. What is the value of life that Muhammad put on people who are made in God's image? A goat headbutt. Literally. Allah's apostle said, who is willing to kill Ka'b? Thereupon Muhammad sent this person. Malazma got up saying, Muhammad, would you like that I kill him? The prophet said, yes. So this Malazma said, then allow me to lie to deceive Ka'b, to say a false thing to deceive him. So he's asking permission. Can I lie? Muhammad said, you may say it. You may say the lie. When he came down, this is the person he's supposed to kill, and he was holding his cloak under his arm. They said to him, he is holding it. We sense from you a very fine smell. So the person who they're trying to kill was wearing this expensive kind of perfume. He said, yes. He said, allow me to smell the scent on your head. The person who's going to be murdered. They said, yes, you may sell it. So he caught it and smelled it. Then he said, allow me to do that once again. He then held his head fast and said to his companions, do your job, and they killed him. This is from Islam's most authentic, most trusted sources. This is Sahih al-Muslim. So this man is allowed then to go kill this man Ka'b, lying to him, hey, how's it going? Hold his head while his companions do it. All under the approval of Muhammad. And this is from the Quran, and that Allah may test or purify the believers from their sins and destroy the disbelievers? Do you think that you will enter paradise before Allah tests those of you who fought in his cause and also tests those who are steadfast? So Muhammad here is saying that Allah is going to put a test in your life to see if you're willing to do this. From the Quran 3, do we see this in the Islamic pamphlet? We shall cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieve. There it is. That's what they're to do. When the prophet returned from the battle of the trench and laid down his arms and took a bath, he is laying down. He is totally relaxed. The battle is won. Gabriel came to him and said, "You have laid down your arms. By Allah, we, the angels, have not laid ours down yet. Go out to them." The prophet said, "Where do I go?" Gabriel said, "Toward this side." And he pointed toward this Jewish tribe, the Bani Qurayza. So the prophet went out to them. This is in Bukhari 41:17. So the Muslims take a siege of this town, okay? They take a member of that town, Said. He was an ally, He wasn't actually a member of the same tribe. And because he's trusted by these Jews, Muhammad says, go make terms for a peaceful surrender. And let's look at this. So Said said, "Then I give the judgment that the men should be killed." Muhammad said to Said, "You have given the judgment of all above the seven heavens." Then they surrendered, and the apostle confined them in Medina. So this tribe doesn't know what's going on. They give up. They trust this guy, Said. He negotiates with Muhammad. The prophet ordered that every male whose pubic hair had appeared, that's literally the word, should be killed, and those who had not should be spared. When we look at Ibn Ishaq, then the apostle went out to the market of Medina and dug trenches in it. Then he sent for them and struck off their heads to trenches as they were brought out to him in batches. There were 600 to 700 in all, though some put the figure as high as 800 to 900. This went on until the apostle made the end of them. He's in a bath. These people are not doing anything to him. He captures them, checks the boys, strips them, removes their dignity, and if a boy had pubic hair, slaughters them. Muhammad sent the Muslims to attack a village, and they take some prisoners. One, this is the story of Kirfa, is described. She's a very old woman. It is ordered to kill Kirfa by putting a rope to her 2 legs and 2 camels and driving them until they tear her apart in 2. Then they brought her daughter, and she is presented to one of the fighters as an uncle, and she bears him a son. Her mother is ripped apart under the blessing of Muhammad. This is from Al-Tabari, and the oldest, closest biography to the life of Muhammad, Ibn Ishaq. This is on page 665. And if we had fabricated, this is how Muhammad dies, against us, Allah, some of his sayings, we, Allah, would certainly have seized him by the right hand, and then we would have cut his aorta. This is Muhammad saying, if I made any of the Quran up, Allah himself will seize me by the right hand and will cut my aorta. I wonder how he dies. The prophet, in his ailment in which he died, used to say, "Oh, Aisha, I still feel the pain caused by the food I ate at Khaybar. At that time, I feel as if my aorta is being cut from that poison." Now, what happened at Khaybar? He murdered Jews. Foolishly, a Jewish woman offers to make him food and poisons it. And ultimately, a Jew is what kills Muhammad and has his aorta severed. So when we look, as we wrap up this series, there has certainly been for you in Muhammad an excellent pattern for anyone whose hope is in the Islamic God. We have to decide who we want to serve. Muhammad's version of God or another version. Now, the Shahada, to be a Muslim, we looked at, if you go back to the very beginning, we watched a video of a lady who converts to Islam. And she repeats this: I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. That is how you become a Muslim. That is the way of salvation, according to Muhammad. He puts himself in that. You must believe in Muhammad. And here's the sad part of this. Now that you kind of have an understanding of Muhammad's morality from the original sources, look at what's happening today in the world. Let's look at how other faith groups talk about it. This is from The Joy of the Gospel by Pope Francis. He's not the current pope, Pope Leo is. Our relationship with the followers of Islam has taken on great importance, since now they are significantly present in many traditionally Christian countries. We must never forget that they profess to hold the faith of Abraham. And together with us, they adore the one merciful God. Is Allah's perfect messenger presenting the one merciful God who will judge humanity on the last day? If I'm a Catholic woman and I've looked at Islam's most trusted sources, how could I follow the Pope? When that merciful God looks into, on the night that he supposedly went and saw within the fire, the majority of those are women. How would these girls who were taken by ISIS, the reason that they were taken by ISIS comes directly from the Quran, not some perversion of Islam, but from Islam's most trusted sources. How would the Kayla Muellers, the Yazidi girls, think when they see Pope John Paul kissing the Quran? Is this how we should be reaching them out? 1995, Pope John Paul II in Morocco. We believe in the same God. We do not, as the Christians, believe in the same God. Allah and the God of the Bible are two totally different people. They have different characteristics. They're described differently. They couldn't be further apart. We do not believe, but he said, we believe in the same God, the one God, the living God, the God who created the world and brings his creatures to their perfection. How foolish, how ill-informed, how falling for deceit. The date on this? Just now, the Vatican is finished granting Muslim scholars a prayer room right in the Vatican. How many Catholic prayer rooms are in Mecca, Medina? No. This just happened. We're not even months out from this happening. 2007, the Pope hailed for praying towards Mecca like Muslims. So the Pope in 2007, this is Pope Benedict, he faces the black stone, the Kaaba, and he's praised for doing that. Do we see this precedent of paying homage to idols anywhere in the Old and New Testament? No, we see the exact opposite. The Pope, this is reported, this is a French Catholic thing. The Pope very visibly crossed his fingers, bowed his head for a long time with his eyes deeply closed for 2 or 3 minutes, clearly to pray and to signify that he was praying. And this was in direction of the mihrab, that niche surrounding the 2 columns, which indicates the Qibla, therefore the direction of the Kaaba and Mecca. We see just less than 2 weeks ago, here's Pope Leo. Where is he praying toward? Mecca. This is in Algeria. Pope Leo arrives in Algeria preaching harmony and visits the mosque. And so this is just a few weeks ago. I took this picture from the Vatican. That's why it has a copyright from the Vatican media. So you can go to .va and actually see all the pictures of him in this mosque. On Monday, April 13th, Pope Leo stood in silence for more than 30 seconds before the mosque Qibla, the wall facing Mecca alongside the mosque rector, Al-Qasimi. Now, people will say, well, wait a minute, that's just the Pope's doing it. So actually, let's look at, within Catholicism, the magisterium is the doctrine that all Catholics have to abide by. Just because the Pope says something doesn't mean Catholics have to abide by it. Just because the Pope goes to a mosque doesn't mean it. They do, however, have to follow the magisterium. The magisterium, as codified in the Second Vatican Council. This is 1964. But the plan of salvation also includes those who acknowledge the Creator. In the first place among whom are the Muslims. These profess to hold the faith of Abraham. We totally debunked this. And together with us, they adore the one merciful God, mankind's judge on the last day. How far has the Catholic Church fallen from seeing the truth of what's been taught in the Quran, in Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, and the original, the oldest biographical things? It says, there has been certainly for you in Muhammad an excellent pattern for everyone. Now let's look as we close. We're going to look at some statements from Christianity, basically a Jesus or Muhammad statements. And if you remember, Muhammad said, then let them produce a statement like it should they be truthful. And I looked at a lot of just the ridiculous things that he said in the Quran. So what I did is I'm going to actually look at just some of the things Muhammad said, and we're going to apply that same test, even though this is the Quranic test. And look at Jesus' warning about money. A lot of why Muhammad attacked was in order to take over caravans. He promised his men booty, actually. He promised them both, money and sex slaves. But look at Jesus' warning about money. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your whole eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. What he's saying is, if you serve money, your whole body, you're going to be so confused by it. Now look at this statement by the brilliant orator, Muhammad. Muhammad said, the eyes are the leather strap of the anus. So one who sleeps should perform wudu or ablution. So why, after they fall asleep, do they have to put your phones away? This is not what I want you remembering. Just kidding. He said, this is the basis for ceremonially cleansing. This is the ultimate what's on the outside matters and what the inside doesn't matter. What he's saying, when you fall asleep, you pass gas, therefore you have to go get ceremonially clean. That's also why if you pass gas, you have to get ceremonially unclean. That's also why in heaven, these Ori wives, they won't even spit or blow their nose, because that's what matters to a 7th century Arabian. Jesus said, he who lives by the sword will die by the sword. Well, that sounds the exact opposite of Islam. I have been commanded, Muhammad said, commanded to fight against the people till they testify. The Shahada, 133. Don't lie, thou shalt not bear false witness. Matthew 19:18. We just covered lying is permitted, all different types of ways. Jesus neither owned nor traded black slaves, sex slaves, or any slaves. Muhammad owned black slaves, traded sex slaves, and took his soldiers' beautiful wives for himself. Jesus never beheaded anyone. Muhammad beheaded 800 Jewish men and boys. Jesus preached forgiveness in Matthew 18. Muhammad murdered those who even insulted him. Jesus said, if someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. Muhammad said, if anyone transgresses the prohibition against you, transgress ye likewise against him. They're going to do it to you, do it right back. The opposite. One version of God, another version of God. Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers, they will be called the sons of God. Muhammad said, jihad in the way of Allah elevates one's position in paradise by 100-fold. Jesus was celibate, encouraged virtue. Jesus said, do not look on a woman with lust. Muhammad married 13 or more wives and kept sex slaves. Jesus protected children. Muhammad slept with a 9-year-old child, fantasized about marrying an infant. Jesus never had a sexual relationship with a child. Jesus, he healed women. We think of the two. He was on his way to heal Jairus' daughter a woman with an issue of blood is healed. Ordered the murder of an elderly woman to be pulled apart by the ankles by camel. Jesus said, "Blessed are the meek, for that's who's going to inherit the earth," on the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5:5. Muhammad said, "O you who believe, fight those of the unbelievers who are near to you, and let them find in you hardness." So Jesus never took captives, never killed anyone. He killed captives taken in battle. Jesus never encouraged, that word that I won't mention for YouTube, never enslaved women. Muhammad encouraged his men to do that in front of their husbands, to not worry about if they got pregnant. He demanded captured slaves and a fifth of all their loot taken in war. But listen about this. The Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. Who is the ultimate example for Christianity? Jesus. What was Jesus' role? The Son of Man came to be served, not to serve. Jesus suffered tortured, but never tortured anyone. He said, "Love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you." Muhammad tortured others in horrible ways. The Quran records, "And fight them until there is no more persecution, and religion is only for his version of God." Jesus said, "What are the greatest commandments?" Love God. Love your neighbor as yourself. Muhammad said, belief in jihad, or belief in Allah and jihad. Those are the two. Jesus demanded nothing for himself and died without possessions. Muhammad demanded the best for himself, even from his followers, taking the most beautiful sex slaves and even his adopted son's wife. Died very wealthy. Jesus was crucified himself. The Quran advocates for crucifying those who don't believe. According to his followers, gave life for others. This is in John 18:11. There's so many scriptures of why Jesus came. According to his followers, he had others give his life for him. Jesus said in Luke 6, "But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you." Muhammad said, "O you who believe, do not take my enemy and your enemy for friends. Would you offer them love while they deny what has come to you of the truth? O ye who believe, take not the Jews and Christians for friends." Jesus' disciple in 1 Peter said, "But in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks for the reason for the hope that you have. Do that with gentleness and respect." Muhammad said, "O you who have believed, do not ask about the things which, if they are shown to you, will distress you." Don't ask questions. A people asked such questions before you, then they became thereby disbelievers. Why is it hard to convert Muslims from the most obvious false prophet in the history of the world? They are literally told to not ask questions. Get them to look at their original sources. Jesus, in John 3:16, even my granddaughter knows this, "For God so loved the world." What does the Quran say? Allah loves not the disbelievers. This is the same thing that the Pope said. They follow the same God. I'm sorry, they do not. This is the same thing the magisterium said. They do not. But God showed his great love for us by sending Christ to die for us while we were sinners, or I would say unbelievers. The exact opposite. Does Muhammad's version of God do that? No, it says, "Lo, he loves not sinners or disbelievers in his guidance." That, my friends, is the foundation of why I'm a Christian. Not because I am better, but actually because I need a Savior. I don't need a Savior that tells me to go murder, kill someone else so I can have perpetual virgins in heaven. I need a Savior who knows, because when I close my eyes at night, I know I am a sinner in need of a Savior. My love compels me to tell the truth. We could not have on either ends of the spectrum further beliefs than Islam and the teachings of Jesus Christ. So thank you for this time. I'm going to close on this. I've gone over just a little bit tonight. If you want the notes at the end on page 110 include a short reading list. I do encourage, there's a video with a QR code that has a Christian book list. The video that I showed you at the beginning, my son did, his channel is Christianity Commons. That's Christianity Commons on YouTube. If you want to see that story of Kayla Mueller, you can go to his. He also has, I think, these books on this Christian book list, every Christian should go through. They're so basic and so good in order to defend your faith, to actually give people a reason for the hope that's within you. So on that, I just say we did go beyond the surface to see what Islam's most trusted sources say. Again, thank you so much for your time. This closes the 8th session, so thanks. Any questions?
We have no online questions, but
Perfection.
Anybody in the audience?
I had a question regarding what we had talked with you about earlier. We were reading a book that talked about that there were verses, 109 verses of war verses in Islam. And I was wondering, even though I know as a Christian, Christ said for people to go into places and to utterly destroy them. And he was doing that to keep the Israelites pure and things like that. How do you counteract someone that might say, well, Christianity also has war verses where they, Christ tells them to go in and completely kill off the women, children, blah, 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 blah.
That's a great question. So I'm going to recommend a book that I think is probably the best on this subject, because what happens in these dialogues is we'll go, okay, let's look at whatever the Ammonites, and we'll go down and we'll look at what happened with them, how they destroyed it, and then somebody else will come up. There's a book by Paul Copan, and it's, I think, called The Big Book of Bible Difficulties.
Is God a moral monster?
Oh, Is God a Moral Monster? Is God a Moral Monster? It is a phenomenal book, and it will go over every one of those issues. What you see, however, in the short version of that, is when God is judging these people in Israel for burning their children alive, offering infants on hot irons to a Molech. That is a lot different than somebody making up a song mocking Muhammad and having them pulled in two. Fundamentally, that's the short version of it. It is so radically different. But I highly recommend that book by Paul Copan. Thanks for those in the back who gave me the title of it, because I actually couldn't remember it on the spot. Excellent question. Every Christian should go through that book. He goes through each one just in an exquisite way. Any other questions? Perfection. Well, thank you. It's very late. Thank you for sitting through. Is there one over here? Oh, no, you're good. All right. Okay, that's it. Thanks. Appreciate you guys. Have a blessed evening. Thank you for those online.